So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Paddy's going to jump on, I think, there in a moment, but I just said I'd get started because it's 9:30, and that's the time we do the podcast. Well, in and around 9:30 is the time we do the podcast, but hope you all have had a fantastic week. I hope your weekend is even better, and I hope that Aston Villa come away out of this weekend with a win because Crystal Palace are a bit of a bogey team for us. Well, it's kind of swings and roundabouts, I think, with Crystal Palace, but I just have these unerring memories of games against Crystal Palace, specifically since we've been promoted. That when we play poorly against Palace, we play really poorly against Palace, and yeah, it's specifically, I suppose, when we go to Selhurst Park. Now, thankfully, this is going to be in Villa Park, so we don't have to worry about that. But Crystal Palace are a team that haven't been really setting the world alight at the moment, and Aston Villa obviously coming off the win against Everton. God, yeah, nearly forgot who we played last week. Coming off a win against Everton last week, we'll be hoping to build upon that, and without looking too far down the road with regards to fixtures, points, accumulation of points, us being on the fact that we're on 31 points. We would be hoping that, we could pick up some wins over the next 4 or 5 games against teams that are in and around us again. Because one of the criticisms, I think it's fair to call it a criticism, but one of the criticisms that that I suppose we would have had under Dean Smith and as well under Steven Gerrard was we didn't really beat the teams around us. Now, I hate the phrase beat the teams that you're expected to beat. I hate that phrase. The reason I hate it is because we're Aston Villa. We're not expected to beat anyone. So but beating the teams that are around us is what's going to make you pull away from that group, or it's what's going to keep you in that group if you don't beat those teams. So that's why when we play against the next 5 games, we're going to play against, I think, all teams that are either equal with us on points, i.e. Chelsea, or teams that are now currently below us. And I think that's really what the crux of this season is going to boil down to. And it's a great opportunity for us to pick up 7, 8, 12 points. I don't know however many points you guys think we're going to get from the next 4 games. It's a great opportunity for us to pick up those points and see how this team grows. Now, my good friend and confidant, Paddy, is in. And Paddy is here. Look at that for a shirt. He came on a shirt and everything. Whoa.
Good evening.
Hello, Paddy. I was having a little bit of a monologue there, as I didn't get a chance to suck my point. But how are things with you? I'm in holiday mode as well, by the way. I'm off work tomorrow, and I'm going to a lovely place, lovely place called Castle Leslie in County Monaghan.
Oh wow! Happy
days. I'm going to be living up Downton Abbey style for the next couple of nights. So I'm enjoying life at the moment.
Good to hear it. Some of us have to work tomorrow, so
I go way out of it now. The amount of matches you've been over to. I deserve this one, Paddy. I deserve this.
Why not?
Exactly. But we've got Crystal Palace. I might be going to Castle Leslie, but we've got Crystal Palace at the weekend. See what I did there? Palace, Castle. No, didn't work. Did work? I don't know. But we've got Crystal Palace the weekend, Paddy. And I was just talking there, and well, I've got absolutely no statistics to back up, and I know that AVFC Stato has popped some stats in there that we're going to share on screen in a moment. I just always feel that when we play against Palace, if we have a bad game against Palace, it goes horrendously wrong. And am I right to think that, Paddy, or is that just time playing tricks on me?
Yeah, we haven't. They always seem to get something out of us every time we play them. So, yeah, I think you're right there. We haven't had the best of luck against them. Going back to that one where Jack got booked for diving, even though Lansbury put the ball in the back of the net by nobody's friend, Kevin Friend. So, Yeah, we haven't had much luck in that in the fixture at all. I suppose the best bit of luck we could hope for this weekend is our old friend Saha not to be fit, because he kind of takes the pressure off the rest of them with his tomfoolery. That if we'll call it that, something nicer than what I usually call it. But yeah, he's been a thorn in our side, and he can take the pressure off. He can keep the ball up the other end of the pitch. He can also put the ball out of play and get in the referee's face and kill 30 seconds or so. And he's quite good at it, and nobody ever calls him Emmy Martinez when he does it. But that's the benefit of having him in your team. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
We
they're
can
not
see
on the.
Stato has there that since the start of last season, this will just tell you how important Zaha is to
Oh wow,
the
yeah.
team. Palace have won just 10% of their Premier League games compared to 31% when he features. So, and when he's on it against Villa, he's on it, but Villa like to wind him up as well. Zaha versus Mings is a trilogy at this stage. And I prefer him not to be there because because he's a good player. He's a really good player,
Oh, he's a
and
good player, yeah.
I prefer him not to be there at the weekend. I think it's pointing towards the fact that he'll be doing well to be there, but it wouldn't rule him out if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think from somebody quoted Vieira today to say that he more than likely will be fit and he has trained. Whether that means he'll be on the bench or not, I don't know. But look, we got to play our own game, and I think if we inflict our game as we have been doing, I think they'll struggle with us. They're not shipping an awful lot of goals, so we will struggle to break them down as well.
Yeah,
but I can't see anything but a win. But our home form hasn't been the best, so who knows what might happen at the weekend.
Yeah, and look, as you said, we got to concentrate in our own game, and one man who's definitely going to concentrate in his own game is going to be Ollie Watkins, because with 8 goals so far this season, Ollie Watkins can become the first Villa player to reach double figures in 3 consecutive top-flight campaigns since Christian Benteke. And once again, I'm coming to this one half-cooked, but there's only been a handful of Aston Villa players who've done that in Premier League history. I think Dwight York is another one. I think Gabby did it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dion Dublin might have.
Possibly. Yeah.
But I'm shaky on the Dion Dublin one. So, we haven't had strikers who've been good over a concerted period of time. And what I mean by that is 3-4 years in a row. And I think it's important for the club to have a striker. And I've said this before, I've been saying it all year. It's important for the club to have a striker they can rely on, because if you've got a striker that's in a good vein of form, you always have a chance. I always bring it back to, Spurs have had some really good players. They've had some really good managers over the last few seasons. But when Harry Kane isn't banging them in left, right, and centre, and when Son takes a year off, even though they've had a very, very good start to the season, they could very easily still finish in Champions League positions. The feeling around White Hart Lane is that they're having a very underperforming season. And that's because they don't feel like they're really in with chances in games at times, because they don't have that forward on a hot streak. So fair play to Ollie Watkins. He equaled Paul Rideout's record last week, and he's gunning down Andy Gray's this week, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read that somewhere.
Andy Gray scored 6?
I think he did score 6 in a row.
I know there was someone back at the turn of the last century that got 7 or 8, but it
was Pongo Waring or someone.
No, it was long before that. I think it was back in the real early days, 1912 or something. Yeah, look, he's on a and let's face it, this is the fixture he wants if he's in that kind of form. He will get in. He will put it up them for sure.
There we go. He got 6 in 1977, and he graded. Yeah. Michael Huggins says it was Pongo that got 7.
What I read wasn't Pongo Waring anyway. So maybe there's someone who got more than that again. I don't know, but it was back before Pongo Waring's time. I think Pongo Waring was around war times, wasn't he? But the one I read was about 1912.
I can't understand as well how we haven't had another person by the name of Pongo play for the club as well, because it's it's just sitting up there. It's just
his name was actually Tom, wasn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Pongos
And
is
do you know
his
what?
name.
Do you know what I found out actually? And I'm going to say this: Mark Goldbridge isn't Mark Goldbridge's real name. I only found this out yesterday, and I've literally told about 12 people today, and they all went, "Yeah, have you never looked up his Wikipedia?" And I went, "No, why would I be looking up Goldbridge's Wikipedia? His name was Brett de Cesare, and he changed it because he was part of the fraud police, and the fraud police didn't want people to know what his real name was." And my mind actually nearly exploded out the side of my head when I read that yesterday because, yeah, interesting. There's one for you. You can
Well,
have that one
I'm
for free.
I'm sure there's 100 people in the listenership here that doesn't know who Mark Goldbridge is, and they have the greatest of my respect if they don't know who he is.
Yeah, Mark Goldbridge is the United guy. He's the guy. He's on Talk Sport now as well. Yeah, I always, I always thought he might be playing a character, but then when I found out that that it wasn't his real name, I kind of went, "Now my interest is piqued. Now my interest is piqued." But anyway, back to matters. Aston Villa matters more pressing as well. Ollie Watkins, super important. Going to be playing at home. I think the home atmosphere is going to be absolutely rocking. I think I think people like I've heard a lot of people. I've been speaking to a lot of people as well that commented just like you, Paddy, as well. That it just sounded brilliant at Goodison, the away support, and I think a lot of people are kind of saying, right now, fuck, we got to get this done again. We got to get it done in Villa Park.
And to be
I think
fair, it
there's
was
another
brilliant
Scarf
against
Saturday
Arsenal.
again this weekend, is there?
Scarf Saturday, yeah. And in fairness, it was brilliant against Arsenal as well.
Yeah,
you know,
said that. Yeah,
for 93 minutes. So we are on a run with the fans. So let's keep that going. The fans, you know, like we heard from Unai Emery talking about the fans and how good they were. We've heard from Emi Martinez saying how much he loves the fans. Like, it's vital we get this home form right. If we get the home form right and start winning home games on top of what we're doing away, we're going to shoot up that table. We're going to be super next season. So it's important.
hope so.
Like anyone listen, who did I listen to the other day? I think it's Dan Bardell always goes to Palace away, doesn't he? I think it was Dan Bardell I was listening to.
Yeah. And Dolan always goes as well, or Dolan used to go. Or,
I think I heard Dan Bardell talking on the All Villa No Filler. Would that be correct?
Yes, correct, with Frankie.
Frankie asked
Frankie's
him what's the best away ground, and the best for me, hands down. Anytime you listen to Crystal Palace or watch them on the telly, the fans are epic. They're just non-stop. Now, like everybody else, if they're getting a Tonkin, they pipe down and they're like everybody else. But in general, it's always about getting behind the team until the game is out of sight. And I just wish we could instill that in our guys because it's badly needed. It's 100% badly needed. I'd love it to come a day where the likes of the Greedy Six would hate coming to Villa Park because it's as raucous. Even if we got it up and let's face it, we're twice the size of Selhurst Park, so we should be able to make some noise there for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it will be. I think a win will cure an awful lot of what ails us. I think there was kind of a bit of pessimism in those 3 games because there were 3 games that were difficult to win and we didn't win them, and people were like, "Oh, same old." And we had taken results out of the likes of Brighton and United and Spurs previously. But now we've beaten Everton, and look, while it wasn't an unbelievably convincing performance, we still got the job done. And I have a funny feeling, I hope, and I'm almost expecting that we'll get the job done again on Saturday because we've got a very, very good manager, and there's no turning away from that. But one thing I do want to talk about as well is that while we do have a very, very good manager, Unai Emery has won none of his 3 Premier League games against Crystal Palace in his time at Arsenal, and he's only faced Liverpool and Wolves more without winning. Now, it was, in fairness, I'm not going to blame Unai Emery because he was coming up against the colossus that is Roy Hodgson when he did manage against him. So it just seems to be one of the bogey teams for Unai. But I don't buy much. I don't read much into it. 2 new managers, 2 different teams, 2 different setups. But and that was me being a bit facetious because I really just wanted to talk about Roy Hodgson. But I think it's very. I'm a bit disappointed that Coutinho is injured and now looks like he's going to be out for about 6 weeks again, because he's got to shake that and he probably might never shake it now at 31 years of age. But that's one thing that people label at him, is he can never get a run together, and when he never get a good run together anymore because his body's going to let him down. It was labeled at him at Bayern Munich when he went back to Barca and all that. And I'm just disappointed he's gone now for about 5 to 6 weeks, because he was coming into form. I definitely think he would have started against Everton. Whether that would have been a good thing or a bad thing, I think it would have been a good thing given Leon Bailey's showing. I don't think Leon Bailey starts at the weekend for me. But I didn't think he'd start. I didn't think he'd be the first man in after Coutinho went down against Everton either. So what's your view on it, Paddy? What do you think?
Yeah, but look, we've seen it a few times now. We've seen a short burst of magic from Coutinho. We saw him score that goal against Arsenal, correct? Did score against Arsenal, didn't he? Yeah. And looked like a man who was back playing with magic in his boots, and then gets injured in true Coutinho style. So look, he's 31 years of age. We've plenty of cover in those positions. So if we can get him coming in and out and putting a bit of magic on the pitch as well when he gets that opportunity, maybe with a good preseason next season and a run in the team, we'll see him gaining momentum and gaining a lot more minutes under the belt, and that might help his injury problems, because over the last 5 years all he's done is come in and out of teams. He hasn't had any decent run where he's gone 7, 8, 9, 10 games where he started every game and played the bulk of the game. So for him, I wouldn't be critical because of that. I think it's very hard when you're stop-start. We saw Danny Ings picking up in niggly injuries, doing the same thing. He went to West Ham and did exactly the same thing. So while we have that bit of magic to pull most of the time, we're going to have to put up with those few games that we miss him for if we're not going to play him every week. And that's how I see it. But yes, I don't see Leon Bailey starting at the weekend. I'd actually be very disappointed if he does. I think he's had enough of an opportunity. I think it's time now to stand him down and let him work harder when he gets in there.
One thing I will say is, the thing with Leon Bailey is, if he has a fast start and Villa have a fast start, we normally score very, very quickly. And I know what you're going to say. It doesn't happen often enough, but Aston Villa have scored 3 more goals than any other Premier League team in the opening 15 minutes of home games this season. And I firmly believe that that's when Leon Bailey does his best work. But saying that, you're coming up against Gay, you're coming up against Anderson. What's the fullback's name again? I can never remember. Is it Ben Johnson? No, Tyreek Mitchell. I always get Ben Johnson and Tyreek Mitchell mixed up. Going to be coming up against Mitchell and Klein. Now, while I think that he could get some good purchase out of the likes of Klein, Mitchell has really come on an awful lot. And for that reason, I think maybe we're going to go a small bit more central based. I think we're going to try and play through their midfield. Myself, I don't think we're going to go as wide. I think we're going to try and play through Doucouré and Lokonga, who are a new partnership inside there. And Lokonga, coming from Arsenal, I thought he was going to be really good when he moved to Arsenal. I think they still have high hopes for him, or they had high hopes for him, shall I say. He's gone off to Palace now on loan. He's not really lit it up since he's come in there. And I think we're going to try and play through that middle there without trying to go too wide. Because, like, for all the Palace do, they're a very counter-attacking side, and if they start with the likes of Olise, if they start with the likes of Eze, is Eze fit? I think he is.
He came on the other night against Liverpool, wasn't it? They played.
They did, yeah. But then again, they could start with him, but most likely they're going to have just guys that just love playing against us, like of Andre Ayew and Jeffrey Schlupp. I don't know what it is, and I know Schlupp scored against us recently as well, but the two of them just like this, they seem to up their game a level when they play against Aston Villa, and that's what Crystal Palace are. That kind of team. They're that kind of team against us that a player will come out of nowhere. Like, I remember Joel Ward playing for them, and he's still on the squad if I'm not mistaken. And you'd always pinpoint him and say, surely someone's going to have a run at him and absolutely beat him all ends up. And then he might have like an 8 out of 10 game that day against us. And it was just annoying, that kind of things. Or maybe Tompkins was still playing for them up until recently. Like, just there's all these players that just happen to have that game. against Villa, and that's why I never take them for granted. And I'm not denigrating those players or anything. What I'm trying to get, the point I'm trying to get through here is I never take Palace for granted because I have this irrational kind of PTSD over them for whatever reason, and I can never quite put my finger on it. But hopefully that's going to end at the weekend, Paddy. Paddy, I've got a question for you. Michael Huggins, well, he's directed it to me, but I'm going to redirect it to you. But Michael Huggins asked, please tell me now, is there something we should know about Duran starting on Saturday?
Nice,
I
nice,
know
nice
I see what you did
Mike.
there.
Many of a certain age wouldn't see what he did there.
I'll be honest, it was only when I read it out that I realised what he had done. I didn't. It was when I was reading it in the comment list here, I hadn't the clue.
Yeah, I can't see it. Like we spoke about it last week, and Emery kind of leaned towards the fact that he wasn't ready. The man we haven't mentioned either, who hasn't got a look in but has been thereabouts, is Bertrand Traore. So it may be time for him to get maybe a half an hour under his belt, if depending on how the game is going. I don't see him starting at all, but could definitely see him getting a run out of some sort. He needs minutes under his belt for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
And not a bad secret weapon to have in reserve there. We've seen him doing some. Well, no, don't get me wrong. We've seen him having Leon Bailey-esque performances, but absolutely we've seen Bertie do some magic stuff in the past few years. So yeah, I'd love to see him get back to his best. And we don't know what Emery could get out of him. He's got magic out of some players already, and hopefully he can pass that on to Bertrand Traore too.
Was that the man's name that you read who got 8 and 8 in the 25-26 season? Len Capewell.
I think there was, and there was another one there.
Harry
Hampton, and then there was one more. 1910. That was the one. Yeah,
that was the one. Got 6 in a row. Look, we've got the most knowledgeable watchers and viewers in the world. I wouldn't. This is great. Always covering up for my failings. I love it. Absolutely love it. But the what was that song? Actually, I might off on a tangent here. There was a song that was sang. It was like, they call him Harry Blue, the Villa villain.
Clary Blue.
Was it Larry Blue? Because I remember hearing that song when I was really young. And
Clary, as in short for claret. Clary.
Oh, was it Clary Blue? All right.
Clary Blue, the Villa.
I've been singing Harry Bloom or something like that. I remember singing when I was younger. I remember one of my mates had this song. I had this CD, and it had a load of footballing songs on it. And we used to just continuously play them about Julian Dix. There was a Julian Dix song on it where it was Julian Dix is the Terminator. And apparently it was a released song that actually, somebody made it and released it. It wasn't just a piss take. But yeah, that was because that was on that CD as well. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, back to our regular broadcasting here. Paddy, I had a question there for you now. Yes, about Traore. You were he's made the bench now for the last couple of games. And I'm going to go back even further because he's brought back from loan. The more I look at it and the more I see it, I'm kind of going to want to see him on the field pretty soon. Otherwise, I'm going to start thinking, who brought him back from loan? Who brought him back to the club from his loan spell? And was it Unai Emery's decision? And why did Unai Emery come out and say it was his decision after? Look, it's not the most pressing matter in the whole club. Don't get me wrong. But I suppose people, like everyone here, knows that I'd have a soft spot for Bertie and just his maverick nature on the field. And I know it's going to take him time to get back to fitness, but maybe this might be the game for him to come on and try something. And I don't think it's going to be the game for him to start, because I think Buendia is shooing. I think it'd be stupid not to start Buendia in this game after his brilliant cameo. But then again, as you mentioned, is he that he's that much better coming off the bench than someone like a Bailey? So it's going to be a conundrum. But does he just trump it all and put in Bertrand Traore instead?
Depends how fit he is. To answer your question, I would have thought Mila Jedinak was behind that decision to bring him back, because if you remember, he picked up an injury and they thought the injury was quite serious, but it turned out not to be too bad. So I think they brought him back to give him some treatment for Aston Villa treatment, and it didn't appear to be as bad as it was. So he ended up staying there because nobody else came in for him. Well, he probably would have been unfit by the 31st of January. So here we are, like 8 weeks later after him coming back. So I guess it makes sense to get him back, get him training, because after all, he is our player. So to get him back for this period of time where he can get used to Emery's system, and Emery to get used to him, and Emery to count him in or out for next season, whatever that may be. And I definitely think he would be a valuable asset to have coming off the bench, just because of the dearth of strikers we have at the moment. I don't mean in the long term it'd be great to have him at the club. I think we can definitely sign better players, but for now he's our player. Get what we can out of him. If he comes back into this team and scores 2 or 3 goals before the end of the season from the bench, or a moment of magic, well then happy days. It was worth recalling them. So remember, we had got rid of, or they were already in the process of getting rid of Danny Ings when he came back. So that's probably a lot in their thinking as well, that we had this player out on loan that we were probably paying a portion of his salary anyway. So we may as well take him back, sort out his injury, and bring him back in again.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, and look, having those experienced players, knowing that you can't really in the forward department. Well, I'm not going to say that you can't turn to the likes of Brad Young, or you couldn't keep Louis Barry around and throw him straight into the team. I think the wise decision is to hedge your bets on somebody who's done it before and actually played in the Premier League in a concerted amount of games. And I think with the financial status of the club actually being released this week, and there was some hair-raising stuff there with the 10 million still going to Randy Lerner because Dr. Tony couldn't pay his bad debts. That's fine. I've no real problem with that. If there was an agreement there, there's an agreement there. The owners would have taken that on in full knowledge of what was coming down there. But and I didn't read it all. My cursory glance to it, and I'm open to be told I'm wrong on this, was that we made a 400k profit or something like that at the end of last season. And as I say, I believe that this club is playing by the rules of financial fair play. And the reason I'm gone into that as a conversation is that probably had a bearing on, let's bring back somebody that were, as you mentioned there, that we're already, funding or putting a portion of our funds towards. Let's bring it back. Let's pay the full funds for his full contract. He's a good player. Like he's not a bad player. He's a good player, and he's an experienced player. Yes, he's not Lewandowski. He's not. And he does have his failings, but he knows the league. He's got 40, 50 odd games in the league so far, and he's going to be great to have coming off the bench if we need him. And as you said, I think my expectation for him was maybe if he got 4 goal contributions in the course of the last 18 games is what he was going to play. And if he got 4 goal contributions, I think that would have been absolutely fantastic, whether they be assists or whether they be goals himself. I think that would have been great to see. And I actually do hope that we start to see some minutes for him now as he gets his fitness up. And I think with Coutinho being out, it could be an opportunity for him. So that's why I was rolling the two in together. Matt Hallinan, I want to say thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate that.
Cheers, Matt.
And looking forward to Crystal Palace and the next run of games with good stuff from you two gents. Well, I hope that we can we'll bring you something anyway. Whether it'll be good, I don't know about that, but we'll keep on bringing you podcasts. So thank you so much. And Glenn, I just noticed this. I asked you a question. Glenn, like myself, as a penchant for the old home brewing, I have some of you guys might know. Actually, in the early days of the podcast, I used to put up pictures of myself brewing beer before, and but I've mothballed the system since the little one came along. But I think I'm going to bring it out this spring and start making a nice little saison or something like that for the summer. But Glenn isn't messing around, lads. Glenn isn't messing around. He's after brewing a 10.5 ABV coffee stout. Yeah, I tell you, I wouldn't be drinking too many of those on a live podcast anyway. There could be anything come out of me after 2 of those. But fair play to you. That's that. If I was making one of those now, I'd be putting it in bottles or putting it in cans and leaving it there till Christmas, and then having a nice taste off it. Then, but you've your own home roasted coffee beans infused in the fermenter as well. That's amazing. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't be that diligent. If I can't be bought in the shop, if I can't be bought in the home brew store, I probably wouldn't be going to the effort of roasting my own beans. But fair play to you, Glenn. See, you come to this podcast and you get half facts and stuff about brewing your own beer. So that's probably what you get when you come to this podcast. But Matt Hanlon, you also has another. Oh, sorry, Paddy, go ahead.
I'm gonna give another plug. I'm not even gonna talk about this podcast today. I'm gonna tell people that you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't check out Michael Calvin's Football People. It's a podcast by BT Sport. Today, I mentioned it this time last week. He had Unai Emery on the podcast. Today, he had Emi Martinez. We're not even going to talk about what Emi Martinez said, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think it was.
I haven't listened to it yet, but Paddy was
a really good listen to, and you know what? I listened to it twice today. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Really?
I could just listen to Emi all day long. He's just an infectious kind of character. But I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. Listen to it. There's a couple of good nuggets in there, including a little bit of him dreaming about Aston Villa future. So it's worth having a listen.
Excellent. Do give it a listen. Paddy's not on commission, I swear. Well, if he is, I don't know about it.
Definitely not on permission.
Well, we try and get Michael Calvin on. We try and get him on. Would he come on? This little
I'm sure he would.
We'll see.
Sure he would.
We'll see. Yeah.
Very knowledgeable, Michael. Not a Villa fan by any means. He's a Millwall fan, but I've been listening to him for many years.
I've listened to his podcast before. He's a good interviewer. He's a really good interviewer. Yeah.
He asks the questions that you want asked. That's the way I look at it. So definitely have a listen back if you get the chance.
Paddy,
so is asking, is it on here? I think it's on all podcast channels. I don't know if it's on YouTube.
No, I don't think it is. It's on audio podcast, so you'll find it in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I have it lined up for tonight. I'm going to listen to it. Maybe I might listen to it in my journey tomorrow. We'll see. Matt Hanlon asks, does Stato keep referee stats as well? There you go, Stato. I don't know, do you keep them? But I am going to ask somebody who has once said to me, somebody who doesn't have statistics on referees but has opinions on referees. I'm going to ask Paddy what he thinks about Craig Pawson instead.
I've given up commenting on them individually. They're all as bad as each other. Isn't that what I came out with after I got an awful slagging on Twitter and everywhere else over something I said about a referee? But yeah, they're all as bad as each other. I don't think Craig Pawson is the worst of them, but quite capable of robbing you like on any given day, like the rest of them. But I'm hoping that we don't have to talk about referees or VAR and everything is done properly. Not like the last few weeks have been just awful to watch. As a neutral, especially awful to watch.
Paddy, this one is, well, I don't know, actually. Frank Worthington might be ahead of might be before your time as well, but Michael Huggins says, Bertie reminds me of Frank Worthington, his style of play. No idea what he'll do. Now, my memories of Frank Worthington was before my time as well, but my memories of Frank Worthington were seeing him on Soccer AM when it was the Worthington Cup. Remember when the League Cup was called the Worthington Cup? And they used to have Frank Worthington on regularly when it was called the Worthington Cup, back when Soccer AM was really good. And that was my introduction to Frank Worthington. And actually, I went down then to try and find out, was he any good from it, or was it just the fact his name was Worthington? And yeah, he was a pretty maverick player, all right. I think
he was for sure.
I think he could say that.
I don't remember him playing, but I did spend a rather raucous evening in his company, which we'll say no more about. And as a result, I did look up some of his games and some of the moments that people were talking about when I was in his company. And yeah, he's worth checking out. He was a pretty colourful character on the pitch for sure.
Yeah, he was Nigel Worthington's father, wasn't he?
Was he?
No, he wasn't Nigel Worthington's father. They're about the one age, I'd say, the two of them. But well, Frank Worthington is 72. Yeah, no, he's not Nigel Worthington's father, but like it should almost be a mastermind topic to name all Frank Worthington's teams.
You'd be there all day.
Well, he played in the League of Ireland, Paddy.
Didn't he play in America?
He played a good bit in America, yeah. He was one of the first players, I'd say, to go to America. Well, not one of the first, but yeah, he played in America, all right. But played in the League of Ireland in 1989. I just have you up here. Played 2 games for Galway United, my local
Jesus.
club up here. Yeah. I'd say he was
There
only
you
over
go.
here in a stag, and I ended up playing 2 games, and then went home
Probably.
afterwards. I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. James Byrne, thank you so much for that, James. Really
Cheers,
appreciate
James.
it. Matt, thank you again. Thanks a million, Matt, for the super sticker as well. I had one last question. I can't think of it, Paddy. Do you know what? It'll have to wait. No, I'll remember it at some stage later on. It'll have to wait for the team sheet tantrum, because I am hoping to have a team sheet tantrum 150 on Saturday. All depends on Wi-Fi dependent, whether we will have it or not. I'm expecting there should be no problem in this place with Wi-Fi, but it is but just in case we don't, I will try and post something up on Twitter to let you guys know anyway. But we should be able to, but team sheet tantrum should be there 10 to 2 on Saturday, and then post match then shortly after the game at 4.
Should you not be available, I will chance it on my own. Let's see how we
I
go.
see. The thing is,
It might be a short
Paddy,
version, but we'll give it a go.
either way, Paddy, you're going to have to drive the bus from this side, because I'll be on my phone. So either way, so I was going to tell you that afterwards, but we might as well have our pre-production meeting right now in the open. But you'll be driving the comments. So I'll definitely be on the phone only. But yeah, thanks a million, everybody, for dropping in. 6 minutes past 10 here in Ireland, so we're going to let you guys get to bed or get to work, so depending on what part of the world that you're listening to. But thanks a million for a really enjoyable conversation. Some really, really good questions there. What we spoke about Clary Blue. I found out that Clary Blue, the Villa Villain, was the words of the song all these years ago. And Paddy has a story that he's definitely telling me when the microphones get turned off about Frank Worthington, because my interest is peaked now. But until Saturday, guys, everybody, appreciate you, and we hope to see you again Saturday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.